Is that Dennis?
Starting.
Okay.
My name is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. We are also live on Kia FM 95.9, broadcasting right there from Monrovia. In today's edition, we're going to be talking about a very touchy subject. A subject that has been discussed for the past 40 years. The question is, should the progressives apologize for 1980 and the sorrow state or the backward state of the country, Liberia? Well, that's the question. Many say the progressive caused all the problem. It started with 1979 rice riots. It went to the 1980 coup, which made some blame the progressive for, and now the country does not seem to recover. Ever since the war that destroyed over 250,000 of our fellow compatriots, people are pointing fingers at the progressives for starting all this. To discuss this, I have a progressive, they call it the veteran progressive, D. Carlor from Kojai, all the way in Sando County. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Say that again. Your volume was.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm also joined by Dr. Fidel C.T. Budi, who is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Dr. Budi.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and it's an honor to be here in the presence of one of the progressives. So I'm eager to have a spirited conversation about the topic.
Thank you. We will soon be joined by Dr. Otavius Male, who has some issues with the progressive, and he's now going to shy away from expressing them. This whole thing started with 79, and that's why many people are blaming progressive. There was what we call in Liberia is known as the rice riots. People were not satisfied with the price of rice being hiked by the government, and so there was and many things happened. Since then, some believe the country has been on a downward spiral. I just want to play a snippet of President Tubber's speech right after that 79 demonstration that led to death, and for which people are holding the progressive responsible. Take a listen.
In an atmosphere of democratic interaction between government and governed, a group of individuals came forth and requested permit for a demonstration on the identical issue. Government invited the individuals in an attempt to effect a meeting of the minds. True to our firm faith in democracy, the exchange was free and frank. We reiterated our assurance that the matter was continually under advisement, that we would still welcome any new suggestions, and that at the end of the day, only the supreme interest of the people would prevail in the matter. Soon we were again informed that in spite of all that had transpired, the demonstration would still proceed in total defiance of the laws of Liberia and duly constituted authority, notwithstanding the fact that they had been denied a permit when requested, and this information had been repeatedly brought to their attention. As I have sworn, as your president, to defend the Constitution and enforce the laws of the Republic of Liberia, I had to discharge those sacred responsibilities in defense of the nation and its people. In the merely occasioned by a defiant and illegal demonstration, the most tragic misfortune occurred of the death of some of my precious and promising citizens and wounding of a number of others, all of this with the attendant development of damage to millions of dollars worth of property. Had government not exercised restraint, there may have been even more casualties. I'm deeply hurt and aggrieved by this national tragedy, and I extend preliminarily in this manner my sincere sympathy and profound regrets to the affected families.
Those were the words of President William R. Tobert on, I believe, April 15, talking about the demonstration of 1979. Well, we want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Today, we're going to answer the big question that has been lingering for the past 40 years. Should the progressive apologize for 1980 and the sorrow state of our nation? I will open the floor for introductory remarks because I know people have different feelings. And I may not put the topic correctly, but this is how it's been discussed. The assumption is since that time or today, the country has not even been able to recover to its pre-war state. Should we blame the progressives or not? Dr. Mali, let me hear your introductory comments on this topic.
Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. First of all, I want to extend my greetings to fellow panelists and to the people back home. From my introductory statement, I think I will be doing enormous injustice to this topic. Firstly, I think those were dark days, and we were just experimenting politics for the first time at a prime level. And whether those who that were engaged had a blueprint to take the country forward, that's yet something to discuss. And I want to believe that there has been a series of generations since then and now, including the Liberian Civil War. So what are the progressions should take blame and extend hand of apology? I find it quite difficult.
Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Fidel C.T. Budi.
Well, yeah, thank you, Dennis. I think, look, for those of us who are students of Liberian history, to answer the question, I'm going to answer the question. And obviously, when we have the conversation later on, we will, kind of go deeper into why the answers we've given have been given. I do not believe that the progressives owe Liberians any apology. And obviously, when we go into the why, I'll explain my position. But just to answer the question, I do not believe that they owe us any apology.
Thank you. And tonight, if you are in Monrovia, or today, if you are in the United States, we're going to solicit the participation of our viewers. So please answer the question in comments. We'll open the phone line very early so that you can participate. With our man, Edwin Gizima Walamasi, I believe the progressives have been our main problem. Let me bring on D. Carlor for his opening remarks.
Again, good evening. Apology to government officials at the time and their family. But in September of 1979, we made a view. We talked to several thousand Liberians across the country, and we extended to them our apology, September of 1979. Because those people, they lost their brothers, their sisters, their husbands, their children. Their property got destroyed. There was huge damage. We extended to them every town, you know, a 73 districts in our country, we went through them, saying to them, you're not mine. You're not mine. Your house spoiled, mine spoiled. We went to prison. We were tortured severely. Nobody told me sorry. Nobody. So here we come. And some people say we should say, you got to apologize to. Look, when we did, and we started to recall the events, whether from like one of the people that I brought here tonight, we started recording, say, from 1978, appealing to every sector of our country. People on the farm, on bad roads, good roads, people in good schools, bad schools, who went around to get from them their honest opinion about our country. And guess what? The margin were poor. They did not give credit to, well, let me say, to the government. You know, my family, I come from Kojai, Sino County. My parents, my town was burned in the 40s. And why? Because my grandfather questioned the government. The soldier went to our town and they went to demand taxes. And my grandfather said, we owe no taxes. We will not pay taxes. No road to our place. Throughout Kabade, throughout Weja, throughout Sikkim, throughout Joazan, nothing. And they burned the town because grandfather was defiant. They burned our town. We fled from Kojai, the area you called. We walked to Cedar behind Lexington, Sino County. And we appealed. He's resting now. I wish him well. My grandfather asked the Associate Justice Witherspoon to please give us a place to stay. That we had no place to stay. He granted us that. So, the apology today, no, I don't have it. I don't have it. It happened to my grandfather, great-grandfather. It happened to me, myself. And you say apology for what? For people putting in place a backward country that why I should apologize for? No, I will not.
Thank you.
No.
So let's cut to the chase. Things are not looking good. There are people who believe that President Trevor had the country, on a forward trajectory until the progressive came and spoiled it. Can we hold the progressive accountable for the way things are today, Dr. Budi?
Well, I think first of all, and thank you, Mr. Carlor, for your opening statement. I think I was reading about that September apology, and thank you for raising that. Look, I think what people need to understand is the context, right? So up until the 1970, Liberia was a one-party state. Up until the 1970, there was no room for dissent.
Let me correct that, because Liberia was not it was Tottenham who monopolized that power. So before Tottenham, we had multi-party, right?
No,
So
when I say up until 1970, obviously everybody who knows Liberian history know I'm talking about from when Tottenham became.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But thanks for the clarification. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when President Tolbert came in, again, I think everyone on the panel here and most Liberians would be aware, he tried to be more progressive himself, right? He tried to open up the country. He tried to allow, with some pressure from the progressives, Liberia to be more accommodating of dissent, right? The biggest problem, I believe, is that, like Mr. Carlor so eloquently put it, everybody, not just the progressives, right? Everybody, including President William R. Tolbert and his government, did not manage the situation well, right? There were better ways that the situation could have been managed. I think everybody, including the progressives, which is why they offered the apology in September, to say, look, yes, maybe we could have managed it a bit differently. Similarly, if you go back, if we could speak to President Tolbert now, in hindsight, he will be able to tell you that, look, we didn't manage the situation as well as we could have. That was sorted. That was done. President Master Sergeant Doe and his enlisted men took advantage of the situation, took power. You cannot, right? You cannot hold the progressive responsible for the mismanagement of our country over the years. You cannot hold them responsible for the bad governance in our country over the years, and you cannot hold them responsible for what President Doe did that led to the agitations, that led to the civil war and everything else that came after that. Yes, these guys rioted. Yes, they had not the full control of the situation. We meant that some disgruntled individuals took advantage of it. However, once the dust settled, President Tolbert was in power. He was killed, not by the progressives, right? They were in prison. They were in prison when President Tolbert was killed. As far as history tells us, and again, my consumption of history, they were not the ones that orchestrated the coup.
Right.
Yes, they were brought in.
They prepared the ground for that to happen. They did
it. Look, Dennis, this is what Liberians need to understand, right? At the time, poverty in Liberia, especially in rural spaces and in the slums in Monrovia, was horribly high. Many people in Liberia, like we are seeing right now in our country, could see a few members of the government living the lavish lifestyle at their detriment. We can see one or two people enjoying the Tolberts and the Chinowaves and the Sirleaves and whomever. They're enjoying, and the rest of the people suffering. Obviously, people are going to be angry about it, right? And yes, when you create a situation of agitation, some people will take advantage of it. And that you cannot blame the progressive for. Look, at the end of the day, the president at the time did not manage the situation well.
Thank you.
The progressive could have managed it differently. And in the end, there was an opening there for President Doe and his Master Sergeant Doe at the time and his guys to come in and take advantage of the situation. You can't go call the progressive to kind of apologize for what President Doe and his guys did. That's not. They didn't do that.
Thank you. And as we go deeper, we'll see the role they play. That's why some people are blaming them. But let me hear from Dr. Malley. Can we hold the progressive responsible for the death of President Tolbert, for what happened, and the result has been bad governance, or we've even the war, and we've been going backwards since then?
Well, I really beg to differ on a few things. First, I have been trying to put the progressive in perspective. This was a movement headed by Bako Matthew. I don't know, neither have I seen the trajectory through which he became chairman. And this is a guy that just came from the United States. I don't know what was their manifesto. I don't know what were their democratic tenets. I don't know all of these things. But I strongly want to believe that the progressive was an opportunistic group movement trying to take advantage and invade a bankrupt coup d'etat agents to succeed. Actually, I don't know their agenda. I've been wondering, I've been doing a lot of research about the progressive movement because it later became a political party. But when it came as a movement, at that particular time, the issue of the rice triggered some of the thing in the first place. When the rice left from $22 to $26, knowing very well, as Dr. Bode said, taking advantage of the electoral population and try to invade the territory of a military group that was academically bankrupt. They had no public service knowledge. They got no experience. Even they were not on top of their military techniques at the time. So it's obvious folks coming from the United States, I mean, they took, I mean, advantage of them to show that the progressive was just a movement probably trying to experiment our political landscape. Bako Mafia was the first to take up a portfolio within the rank and file of the PRC government. So you see, he began to play a parasitic role. Not that they came to actually run the government, but I think they came to take advantage of the situation, the volatile situation, for their own aggrandizement. This is where I strongly believe the
and what was that volatile situation that you are speaking of?
Well, the volatile situation was first, there was this rumor, rather, that the country was marginalized. Tobo had already packed the indigenous one side. I don't know how confirmed with that. And so the military, as far as I was also told by one of my prof in Liberia, that before the military even took over, Larry Toba and others were having a discussion with some people in Ghana and also in the United States.
Larry Toba was too young for that discussion, but go ahead.
Yes. And so I confronted Larry Toba when I went to Liberia, and he gave me some information, but by then he was not proactive as it was after the coup, you see. So what we are seeing here is that these are a group of gentlemen, Liberians, who have come from the United States, headed by Bako Mafia, and this was just a movement at the time. And by that time, Liberia was just 128 years old in 1975. You see? So there were too many things at play at that particular time. But this guy, I think they lost focus. I have never seen a manifesto at that time. I don't know what they really came to achieve.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dennis, let me just say something, 30 seconds, please. I think there's a couple of things I just want to say. First of all, right, Moja was established in Liberia before PAL, right? I think it was 1974. And that was Tukpa Nantipote and Emma Sawyer and Boema Famula. They were on the ground, right? They established Moja. And PAL, which Brakas Matthew was the head of, was established in the US, but did not even open an office in Liberia until 1979. So there were already conversations or agitations going on way before Bako Matthew came into the country.
But then don't forget, they had a political alliance going on. Underground political alliance were going on between Moja and PAL. Don't forget that.
Okay. And luckily we have Deacon Carlor, who was there. Deacon, before you come in, there are a few things here that I want to share with you that our viewers are saying. Number one, Gizima say, I believe the progressive have been our problem. They have turned out to be a bunch of opportunists. River says, the progressive created most of the problems that led to rioting and war in Liberia. The rice riot and multiple university campus riots were all orchestrated by the progressives. Progressives lied to the natives about a lot of things. And then Luja said the first thing the progressive did when the coup happened was fight over who's going to be in power. So these are not in vacuum. People have been hearing these things. So let's start first on what we asked before. You said you apologized in September. What specifically were you apologizing for?
For the, after the April 14 rice fight, right outbreak, after that, the entire country got hurt. We wanted to say to them that it was not right. They came out from every corner of this town. There are over 100 plus slums in this town. What did we do with those slums? What did we do with Monrovia, Central Monrovia? What did we do with the schools? We went everywhere, organizing poor people everywhere. So when Tubman died in 1971, so I wouldn't want to talk about whether he did good or he did bad. He did some good. He did plenty bad. But our people, they have their funny feelings. Oh, and Tubman, that good man. That good man. Oh, yes. The missionaries, on the other hand, they created major schools throughout the country. The Methodist Church, the Catholic Church, the Episcopal Church, putting schools everywhere. Well, people say Tubman was a good man. The point that you want me to raise or discuss is the governing part.
Right. No, hold on before we go to that. I still want to understand the apology. Did you regret your action?
The apology was about because they were injured.
Mm-hmm. So did you regret your action and the role you played?
No, we did not.
All right.
The role I played was to organize our people from 1975. Organizing our people to know right from wrong. I can't tell you that I didn't. I went everywhere. I say they forget about the other people because I can account for myself. I organized the Progressive Alliance activities throughout the 15 counties. The 73 electoral administrative districts. And why was that? Why was that important? Why you had to do that? Because that's where the people were. I tell you something. You made mention of where I'm from, Kojai. There's no road there, no water, no school. And I can tell you, almost all of the districts, all of the clans, all over this country, just at Kojai. So when we organize opposition to increasing rice, and the people say, why we want with the disturbing, President Tolbert asked me myself, Karn, your pa is my friend. And I told him, no, my pa not your friend. How come no school in Kojai, nothing there? Go to Johnson District. After 100 years, go to Johnson District. Go to Karate, go to Sikon. I'm only talking about my share of the country. Maybe another child will come, and they will come from Nima, they will come from, So how come our place like that? And how come their own like that? When these people tell you, oh, Liberia is good, Liberia will prosper, of course, Monrovia has lights. As long as Monrovia had light, Monrovia has some paving in the streets, that was okay. Well, I can tell you, it was not okay to me. I never saw paved road. I never saw electricity. I never saw major school. No, I never saw it. So why was there demonstration? Why? Now you will call it inequality. You will call it nothing. Or maybe the country was good. And those that will tell you that the country was good was Monrovian. I came in Monrovia 1962, my friend. I didn't come here old. I came here as a baby. The town been like that ever since. Ever since. I see that sign. Yeah. I tell people, I went to prison when I was young too. Nothing there. They beat you up. This guy, I remember, he said he come from NSA. He slapped the piss out of me in my ear. He said he was filing. They say you under arrest. And he slapped he just slapped me badly. Yes. That was right after April 14. And I'm saying to you guys, I mean, we can go, but no, their country, we Moja, Pal, and I would like to stay with the past story because the my story. That's the story that I wore streets nights, I wore midnight all over this country, building organization for power. No, I wouldn't apologize. I did not apologize yesterday. And worst, I will not apologize today.
Dr. Maliki mentioning about your manifesto, he said, so you were organizing? What was the message? Why was power forming? And what did you intend to do?
The mandate, the central theme, multi-party system, build the rule of law. That's if of all the things we have forget about the rule of law. All the stuff we did, I wouldn't go there. Just stay with one, the rule of law. Somebody come and slap you and kick you, and you say, I recall this day my sister went to carry food to me in prison, and there's a mayor, big time, very bad boy, rough, and he asked for me. And he said, "Oh, that foreign minister," and he took the dishes from my sister, and like that, and wasted the food, and to her get the hell out of here. And he started to catch my sister. I started crying. I went back in the post stocket. So we can count from 1 to 10. If that way you want, we can do that. But the reason they count we made.
Before I bring in, so you were talking about the road to Kojai. There's no road.
No road.
40 years later, do we have roads in Kojai now?
No road still.
All right, and that will become the next question. But let me welcome our resident economist who is joining us from the first country, the ancient Ethiopia. Tom Karn. Welcome, Mr. Karn, joining us from Addis. All right, Thomas have issue there. So if there were no roads then, and they have no roads now, so will you say now, will you see that as a sign to say, oh, all this fighting and still no road? Did that make you feel bad?
I walked from Kojai to Johnson, to Greenville, to Cape Palmas, to Zwedru, to Riverside. Walk. I didn't say walk. So 1962, I was happy now, 62, because my father put me in a plane, LNA. So at that time, the government had patched the LNA. So I took plane, I came to Monrovia. I guess I was lucky as a kid. But for years, my father, even 1963, I remember my brother was being escorted to go to Zaza. my big brother and my father walked from Greenville to Cedar. We grew up behind Lexington. If you know that, they walked from Lexington. They came to Cedar. They walked from Cedar to Johnson. They walked from Johnson back to Cedar. Then they went to the airport. So my brother would make that Wednesday flight to Monrovia or else he would miss going to Zaza. That's how it was. And maybe that's how it is still.
Thank you. Let me welcome our resident economist, Mr. Thomas B. Karn, joining us from Addis Ababa. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Dennis. Hi to everyone.
Good. Tom, the question is, should a progressive apologize for 1980 and the sorrow state of the country? And I know you're going to look at things from the economic lens. I'm expecting that. Go ahead, sir.
So why should they apologize?
Because the country bad. They started the trouble. We started with 79 rice riot. It led to Tubber, who himself was moving, according to many, moving the country forward. And after his death, the country has been on a downward spiral. So it got to be the progressive. That's the accusation.
Yeah, I think to just make that kind of accusation and request for an apology, I think before we arrive at that kind of point, we have to unpack who are they first, what were they pushing for, what happened since then, are they the ones that are in charge today since 1980, for which you say the country is a sorrowful country. So I think when I came up earlier, the speaker before me was laying out the overall goal for which they were mobilizing and actually pushing for changes in our governance structure. To me, I think whether it was going to be the progressives between the 60s, 70s, and 80s, or even onto today, the structure of governance that we had in Liberia, it was just a matter of time. People were going to, agitate against it. Because it was not going to be possible as we're moving along from 1847 on to where we were in 1960s and 70s, that a one-party state was going to be in place for so long. So, to me, my following of the progressive is that much of what they did were civil disobedience. They come out, they demonstrate, they advocate, they challenge governance processes and all of that. If you move forward, you could see that after the coup onto the 1990s, some of them did play a role in the civil war. Can we hold those individuals that play a role in the civil war? Yes, we can. Not all of them participated also in the civil war. The 1978 riot, there are different stories about how it eventually became a riot, whether there were some people who had hands behind it, whether the demonstration itself was necessary to even take place if the government had listened to the demands that they were putting forth. So for me, I think we have to unpack all of these things before we can say they are responsible. Because part of the progress that we have made today on the democratic side, if people were not going to challenge that one-party state, we wouldn't be there today. Today we have a choice. We can go to election, we select who we want to select. It is not a failure of the democratic governments that we are having, that we are not really making forward, and we are not really moving forward as fast as possible. So I think to blame the current state of the nation on the progressive, I think is an unfair allegation. So overall, I would say these were all part of the nation building process. It's not only Liberia. When you check across the world, many of the countries that were dominated by either foreign powers and all of that, either through civil action or through other actions, people rose to really challenging the state of dominance to be able to create a space for society to be a plural society. So I think before we can be able to say that they are responsible for all of Liberia's problem, we have to dissect it to be able to see exactly what it is that we are holding them responsible for. But I wouldn't be one person that would just categorically say all of our troubles, they are responsible and therefore they should apologize.
Thank you. Dr. Booty, here, and I'll read from the comments. We'll open the phone lines, and our man, George, our controls, please open the phone lines for Morovia. I want people to really say what it means. Here is Peter Nambwe say, the progressive might have meant well, but they were not prepared to take state power. They were not organized enough, and they have power struggles among themselves. That's one. Two, before the show, I spoke with someone who said the progressive did not prepare the people they were calling to demonstrate. And so when there was a breakdown, that's why they looting and everything. And then when the coup came, because they have softened the ground for the coup, everybody rejoiced and thanked the progressive for the coup. And then the progressive became part of the government. And later on, things became the way they are. And even today, there are some progressive who still got power one way or the other and did nothing. So what they did was like they were lying to the people. Dr. Booty.
Now, again, I said at the start that I don't think they owe us an apology. I think it was Thomas Jefferson, I think, in the U.S. that talked about the tree of liberty being refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants from time to time, and it's a natural thing, he said. And I'm happy that Mr. Karn touched on this. You can look across Africa. If you look at what Nelson Mandela and ANC did in South Africa, these guys were putting bombs in buildings, and there were killings and things that went on. And if they hadn't done that, we wouldn't have South Africa now with a black president, even though the country's wealth is still in the hands of a minority white group, right? Liberia at the time was being dominated for 133 years by about 3 to 5% of our population, dominating the rest of the country. Basically, all of the wealth, all of the power, all of the decision making were in the hands of just a few, right? And the country, like most countries in the world, was getting opened up to information, and information is always a critical thing. Similarly, if you look at what we saw with when George Floyd was killed in the US, there were riots all across the world. Why? Because information is now easily available. Here in the UK, some of the riots turned deadly. People were damaging things, and those who did damage things were prosecuted, went to prison for the crimes that they committed. But you can't say that protesting and rioting against the injustices that Black people face is wrong just because some people broke some things and things got damaged and stuff like that. No. At the end of the day, look, the opportunity was there. The progressives saw that Liberia needed to change. Most of these guys had gone to the US, had been exposed to a different way of life, to democracy, to multi-party democracy, if you call the US a multi-party democracy. But these guys were getting educated to these things. There is no way, Dennis, that you can leave where you are, go to a different place, learn something new, and come back, especially when that something new is good, and then not try to implement it. Having said that, like I said from the start, every party in this situation, so you look at the political elites that were saying to Tolba, man, you're moving too fast, they think you're opening the country too much. You look at Tolba, who was trying to open, and he thought he was doing enough. And then you look at the progressives who were agitating, and look, you're not doing enough. So again, like Mr. Karn said, this is a multifaceted situation. Now, I've got a book on my shelf that I read that was written by a guy who was part of the PRC. And one of the motivations for the army officers who took power was because their lives were horrible. These guys, the ministers at the time, would come and go to the barrier and collect army people from there, carry them to their farm to go clear their farm. They were being disrespected. They themselves had their own agitations, right? So it is not one group, and this is what Liberians need to understand. It is not the action of one group that led to the riot or led to 1980. It is the actions of multiple groups that interplay, and that's that intersectionality that people need to try and understand. That's why, like Mr. Karn was saying, you have to pull things back and you look at each piece to this puzzle and understand how each group was agitating. This one is pulling that way, that one is pulling that way, that one is pulling that way. And unfortunately, people are so narrow-minded in our country, and the easy scapegoat here, oh, they are blaming the progressive, they're the one who started rioting. So no, there were a lot of things going on and a lot of groups that had interest in the situation at play. Can you imagine? You have an army in Liberia, and then the president of the country goes to Guinea to bring army people there to come crush the protests. When you have army officers in Liberia, you're basically saying to the guys, you're already sending them on the farm, they fail. You're already using them to go cut grass, they fail. And then you undermine them in that matter to say, look, you're not good enough to even stop people from rioting, right? So there were a lot of things at play, and people need to take a step back and understand how dynamic the situation was. And again, like I said, I'll end on this. Every party to the situation could have handled things differently in hindsight, with experience and maturity.
Hey, Dennis, sorry, if I can just make a point here. Much of the reason why we've not made progress as a country is because of those institutions that were established under that one party system. Even our governance system, that's why even for us to decentralize is a major problem. So that structure that was established set Monrovia as the place where everything needs to happen and everyone else on the periphery just survive and look for your livelihood. It's still the system that is in place today. Every time a political party wins power in Liberia, even though we have multi-party and we are moving forward, but they still want to make sure that they can crush all the other parties and just run the country as if there is no other person across the road. So it's always like people get back to the way Tobo used to, or Tubman used to run the country, the way Tobo used to run the country. So for us to break away from that history, even with the different stages that we have gone through, it's a problem. So that history, in many instances, is what is affecting the outcome of our governance processes today. So you will say, okay, we established this structure, but somebody that says him or Rover wants everything to come to him because that was the way it was working. So, like I was saying, I mean, that was a history, that was a time that we went through. We think we've broken away from it 30, 40 years ago, but the institutions that were established at that point in time, the processes of government, the practices in government, to a larger extent, continue today, which is holding us back.
Thank you. Dr. Mali, many believe that, some believe that 1979 was the start of everything. I don't know if you believe that, but if that's the case, who can we hold responsible for the way things went on April 14, 1979? Is it the government or the progressive?
Well, if we want to put things into perspective, let's just retrograde a little bit. When Kwame Nkrumah returned to the Gold Coast after studying in the United States, that was in 1947, he came with an agenda. The agenda was to get his country out of the hands of the colonialists. But by then you had a UGCC already established on the ground, working along with the colonialists, talking about independence. But the difference with Kwame Nkrumah and the group he met on the ground, even though they made him Secretary General, he wanted independence now. He wanted to fast track independence. And so they split. So you can see that Nkrumah came with an agenda. Okay? So it will bring in the progressive into perspective. I've been wondering, Deacon Clara is saying they came to straighten, they came to straighten rule of law, multi-partyism, but actually, it will go back down to history. Multi-partyism was in Liberia since 1847. You had the independent party.
We know that history. What happened from Tubman?
No, we keep referring to it. Probably what we could say here is that politics took a modern trend, the activation trend. I think I would agree with that. But those things were there, all right?
Hold on, Dr. Malley.
Yeah.
Tubman, from Tubman time, after D2 and the rest of the people were kind of banished, there was under Tubman, there was just one party until his death, correct? And when Tubman came in, Tubman succeeded, Tubman completed Tubman's term, and then there was an election where only the True Work Party took part, and he became president, right? So up to the time of 1979, there was no multi-party democracy. Do you agree?
No.
All right, explain.
We must establish the premise that there was multi-partyism.
Okay.
What problem we could dance around here is that one party stayed a very long time in power. But there was
no opposition. That's what I mean. When Tubman was in power, what were the other political parties that were contesting for election?
Oh, on the book, we had an independent and we had a Republican. Are we saying when you are politically activated or motivated to challenge a government, then we could use that as a yardstick to define multi-partyism? Is that what we're saying here?
No, I mean, under Tubman, do we have two parties competing for election? Were we having election? Who ran against Tubman?
Nobody ran against Tubman. He was there for 27 years. But on the book, there were other parties. Probably they were deactivated by then. All right?
What does deactivation mean? He crushed them.
Deactivation means they went to sleep.
But they were given the room to operate as political party, but they didn't want to.
But on the record, we have other parties. So how do we consider those parties? How we consider the independent? How we consider the Republican Party? I mean, how do we classify them?
I'm confused.
Dennis?
You see, are we saying that the 27-year, the Republican Party and the Independent Party were not active? Is this what we're saying? And therefore, the True Party became active? Well, on the book, the parties were there. Probably they were not active the 27-year. Fine. But on the book, there were these parties.
So voluntarily, they were not active. I mean, speak to what you know. They were given the green light, but they didn't want to take part. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know whether they were active, but on the book, there were other parties apart from the True Party. We must acknowledge that. And the records are there.
I mean, if you were Deacon Carlor being beaten in jail, I don't. If you were D12 who was, or if you were Tuan Ray who was using a bare hands to clean bathroom, I don't know if you say they were active, but go ahead and your thoughts.
Yeah, but Jah, let me ask you this question. So are we saying that the multi-partyism we're talking about, I'm claiming it started from 1847. So are we saying it ended? No. Are we saying it ended when Tubman took over up to October time? Are we saying it ended there?
But there was none. It was vote Tubman vote. My uncle was chief. He voted in the election. Vote. It was just Tubman. But Deacon, let your response. Oh, sorry, Deacon. Go again.
When you say on the books, what is the business of on the books? What is on the books?
The Independent is on the book. If you do your research, you will see it. The Republican Party is on the book. When you do your research, you will see it. The True Party is on the book. When you do your research, you will see it.
But why are political parties formed? Are they formed to be on the book, or they are formed to compete for?
What I'm saying, we are saying there should be a demarcation. If we are saying from Tubman time up to October time, it was just True Party, then my argument would be one party stay a much longer time than the rest of the parties.
We are discussing 1979 to 80 in context.
No, we are not discussing that now. We keep system, one party system. Okay?
Yes, but that's what Dennis said. For a long period of time, we have a one-party system. You are saying on the books. In practice, did we have a multi-party? In practice, in practice, did we have multi-party democracy?
Yes. When we say on the book,
on the books in practice is different.
Wait a minute now. When we say on the book, when you go do your research, go back to 1847. How many political parties we had? We had 3. Do you agree to that?
You're going to 1847.
That's what I'm saying. No. Do you agree to that? That's history. I think author A, I met it there. Do we agree?
During Tubman regime, do we have 3 parties?
Do we have multi-party democracy in practice? That's my question to you.
Do we agree that we had 3 political parties?
Yes, I agree.
Very good. When it came to Tubman time, do we agree that the political parties were active or they were deactivated? And it began
What does that mean? When you say deactivated, you don't get license or you?
No. When you are deactivated, you don't have strength. You're not running anything.
Who deactivate the party itself, or
it could be the party itself?
No, let's talk fast now. Who did it?
I don't know, because you are arguing that the one party came in maybe from Tottenham time. I think this is the argument you guys try to propound, that the one party started Tottenham time, right?
1840. I think the question that Dennis asked
happened that the history that on the book can show on the book 1870. Is there something that came up on the books?
I'm not talking
1870.
I'm not talking about 1870. I'm talking about 1847 that I saw.
No, I say you move it. You say there were 2 parties, 3 parties. Up to 1870.
No, don't misquote me. I'm still alive.
Well, I'm not misquoting you. I'm stating to you. I'm saying to you. 1870. We take that 1847 and we say, oh, we made some progress. You had a red skin, the black skin. So we made some progress up to 1870. So E.J. Raw, the black guy, then they removed him. And from 1870 to 1942, the True Party managed the country. So was there opposition in between there?
This is what I'm asking now.
Who are you asking?
No, I'm asking you. So
okay.
A multi-party qualify when there is opposition? That's the question I'm asking.
Well, say that again, please.
I said the qualification of multi-partyism. It wants to define it.
Okay.
It's only when opposition is around.
No, so multi-party democracy. Multi-party democracy.
Yeah.
Is a playing field that is established for people to organize themselves as political parties and participate in the political process. The political process is for political parties to be registered, for them to be accredited. They can go to election and put forth candidates. If they are independent candidates, they want to run, they can run. That's multi-party, more than one. But if you have a system that you have 1 or 2 political parties are registered and they are on a book, and in practice, you make it even so difficult for them to participate in political processes, that's not multi-party democracy, simply because they are on the books.
No, I disagree.
That's what we're saying in practice. In practice.
I think Mr. Carlor wants to comment. I think.
I think. So there was this guy. You know, he had his family, and then on the books, he was taking care of the children, but they couldn't eat in the morning. But on the books, he's the head of the home. I don't know what the meaning of that book. If I'm not eating, but on the book, you say I'm not.
You know, I remember when they took me to Greenville, we came from a place where we used to eat a lot of food. And so when we went to Greenville, they put one piece of breadfruit. You know, they cut the breadfruit and they put 1 spoon of rice Then they push a plate to you. And I come from a place where food was all over the place. I came to this civilized people place, and they gave me a piece of breadfruit. And what I'm seeing that maybe that's why Liberia is like this. You have from 1870, say, to 1960, and in the true sense of the word, we have nothing to show. 1960, okay, Tottenham had massacred in 1955, 1956. He did all of that. So what happened to the country? He alone ran the place. You shake, they take you down. On the books, you shake, they take you down. So whether it's the David Coleman, whether it's all of them, and you were asking where the opposition, they were taken down. So you couldn't find them on the books. So 1960, Tottenham was the king. 1960. Tottenham would go for a vacation, spend any amount of time he wanted. He would carry bundles of money, go there, and you're talking economy, If Tottenham one you may find, then you may find. If Tottenham one you may find, they shut it down. And again, I'm talking about what I saw as a kid. Because the place was staying, the place my father took us were former government people, American Liberian, that their place we were living. And so when they're hungry, then they come to my pa, who order a brother them, and they go hunt. When they go fishing, then they pack their thing and carry them to Greenville, and will be hungry in the town. I'm saying, look, what we saw was we did not produce. We made it like that. It didn't change much. Those people that they were competing with, like my grandfather, who was loud, he was always thrown into prison. So my grandfather used to tell us, say, you got to be a lawyer. You can't fight these people when you're not a lawyer. You go beg them so they be your lawyer. That's not the way you want to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Carlor, I have one caller on the line. There was this guy, he locked the door in the classroom, he had gone, open the door, he said anybody go outside, I will shoot you, but you're free to go.
Look at that.
On the books, you're free to leave the classroom. But what happened when you leave? Let me bring in one caller here. Caller, your name and where you're calling from. And George, I want you to open the phone lines in Monrovia so people will call. So the progressive apologize. Caller, your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Edwin, and I'm calling from Massachusetts.
Gizima Walama, go ahead. You are live.
Yeah, Dennis, I'm calling from a 14-year-old perspective. I was 14 years old in 1979. I remember I met Sam Jackson. The guy was boastful, braggadocious. Look, I was 6 years old when Tubman died, right? When Tubman came into power, there was a change that shifted into the country. Even after 6, 7 years old, I could remember Tubman would go to offices, ministers not there, fire them. There seemed to be some accountability.
Right, change. Okay? Positive change.
These progressive guys that wanted the yellow-skinned women. They wanted the cars. So they went to the native people and they lied to them because they wanted to take power. You can't tell them they're taking that. You can't even apologize. You're talking about roads.
What was the lie? What was the lie they told the native people, you said?
Oh, they call them, they do this to you, this and this. To me, the real progressive was stubborn.
Can you give any instance where the progressive went on radio and said the Congo man doing this, the native man should do this, or you speak?
It's not a matter of going on radio or Dennis. it's 14 years. I mean, it's 46 years later. I look at these guys and I said, these guys hurt the country. You know, they may not have gone on radio and said it, or they may have done it. What they may have done may not have been out loud, but I'm telling you what the results are. You know, these guys are no Jose Ijuka or Nelson Mandela. Again, I call them a bunch of opportunists. You know?
What did they do wrong? Were they wrong to demonstrate 1979 to say yes or rise? What's wrong with that? Yeah, I want you to hit the nail on the head.
Okay, one of the wrong things, like the other doctor just said, is they had no political philosophy. They had no way of governing the country. But they came and presented themselves as if they could do that.
Thank you.
Okay? When those took over, they thought they could assume power from there. And then those quickly let them know, my man, they're too free. You can't come here and I go get myself for you to come take power. You know what I mean? You know? And again, economists said, the team structure that has existed in Liberia still exists today. Look at UP, look at CDC. Soon they grab power, they come, they eat as much as they can, they lie to the people. We still got 90% on the country. I mean, look, the country in 1980 was way, 1979 was way better than it is today.
And
how can Carlor sit there? You know, I know you know, you got your doctorate, all of that. Well, how can you just sit there and say, oh, the road was traveled in 1979, no road? I mean, there's no road yet there now. There's no road. What have you done about that?
Thank you. Thank you. I got you.
You people are failures. You people have caused this country to deteriorate to the worst state it ever. All of you sitting down with your doctorate degree, all of that, you're all like, you're all imposters.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. I don't know what's wrong with going against government, but I got your point. Let me get the second caller now. Is Chapo Replay. Chapo, you live.
Yeah, is this, am I live?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You're live. Where are you calling from?
So this is Chapo Replay calling from Canada. Edmonton to be exact, my city.
Okay.
I just want to make a few observations. In the first place, it's very disgraceful that people like Waleman, Giza, who does not understand Liberian history. I've never read one Liberian book in his lifetime.
How you know that?
Because his views are not rooted in facts. They are not informed. They are not informing. So let me just come in to say that your doctor on there, I think his name is Jones. His views also are not informed. Liberia always been a one party state since 1871, when the Chew Party defeated the Republican Party and took power. The first thing they had to do was they had fighting over skin color, the black of the Chew Party and the so-called Republican light skin. After Chew Party came to power since 1871 to 1980. The Chew Party held up the power and never gave up the power. Everyone who tried to reform the country, including Blyden, Roy, Faulkner, the Colemans, D12, everybody was exiled and persecuted, basically. So all this noise about progressive to feel like it's just nothing but nonsense.
Thank you.
People went to jail in that country were beaten. The Duke Carlor were beaten in jail. Marcus Down were beaten in jail. Family, all these people were ostracized in the Liberian society. So if folks would understand Liberian history, to come online to despise the progressive struggle, that's their business. The progressive, nobody can apology in that country for what progressive have done to liberate the country. So having said that, I want to thank you for this program. and we are looking forward to April 14 this year. One goal, the progressive will be out. Remember those that were shot in the streets by the two party, oligarchy and hegemony.
But
like I said,
Chebo,
Chebo,
before you go, can the progressive take any responsibility at all?
No.
Thank you.
No, taking no responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Kama Moluba, who has another perspective. Dr. Moluba.
Hey, thank you, Dennis and panel. Happy to join you by phone. First of all, it's difficult to tie the progressive to 1980 coup. So 1980, they don't need to do any apology because in fact, I think they benefited from that when they were released. However, 1979 riot, the leader of the progressive apologized. So that was taken care of. And finally, I agree with Dr. Malik that there was a multi-party system in Liberia before 1980 or before the progressive era. So there's no argument about that. Whether it was active or suppressed, we have multi-party system. I thank you all.
Thank you. Let me welcome the young Evan Morris.
All right, thank you, Mr. John, and hello to the panelists. Look, I like to hear when cowards called up the platform and blame the progressive.
Okay.
Men who stood up, who had the balls, who had a backbone to stand up and fight against a political hegemony that was dominating the people in the country. And you want to call them cowards? These are men. What is that saying that they have in the fight of the people? The struggle continues. You have to carry on the baton of the progressive. If you think that you're being dominated by a certain class today and your rights are not being respected and your political or your economic future is looking bleak, you have to stand up to and fight for it. That's what democracy is. It's a continuous process. You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, since the people fought in the past and walked in, we're not going to fight anymore." Bunch of cowards. The reality is, those people were 100 years ahead of you. Some people wanted to be docile and sit there so that these guys can love to their wife and their daughter and be happy because the country is developing, things getting better. While they're still second-class citizens in their own country and in the majority. It's cowardice. And I think with Deacon and other progressive who had the balls, we see that it's lacking in Liberian young men today. They don't have that bravery to say that again?
As I say, muscle. Who had the muscles?
Yeah, who had the muscle in the mind?
Yeah.
They stood up and they went against a powerful cartel of politicians, and they got beaten, they got tortured, they got put in jail, and they still stood up. They didn't kill anybody. When Samuel Doe came and did what they did, the progressive was not in power. They didn't have the executive. So they did what they did for the betterment of the Liberian people. And somebody came and took power by violence, and you want to bring the progressive. Where are the new progressives today that's going to stand up to Joseph Boycott, the George Weah administration, and fight against the injustice of the country? None of them is standing up because they're scared of war. They're scared of war. They don't want to be beaten. They don't want to be put in sports soccer. They're not ready to risk anything. They want to sit down here and blame the progressive. You're the time machine and sit down under the American Library and be ruled, and your people be dominated by them for another 130 years. But that's what they want. Bunch of cowards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me, there's another caller here, but I want, Dave just said it should be the other way around. The Liberian people should apologize to the progressive for betraying the country by electing the unpatriotic and inept. Sean Williams said, would the progressive movement have proceeded with such action if it had known its agitation would result in the death of 250,000 displacement of 1 million people and destroy the country? I want you to answer that question, like those two questions, Dr. Budi. Why bring on the next caller?
Well, I think, listen, for someone, and I like my brother Elvis Morris' point that he made, right? Because the question I will ask Mr. Carlor, and after my point is, look, my understanding was that Tolbert had plans to kill these guys before the coup happened. That was what I heard. I don't know how true it is, and Mr. Carlor can answer that when he gets his time to talk. But in terms of the question, the progressive did not bring war to Liberia, right? Like Mr. Morris just pointed out, these guys, look, the fact is clear. Tolbert and his Minister of Agriculture decided that their strategy to increase rice production in Liberia was to make rice expensive. That was their strategy. Even though they had a stake in the importation of rice, right? They had a stake, they were going to benefit financially. Instead of bringing in mechanization, like Mr. Carlor talked about, instead of mechanizing agriculture to increase production, I'm sure Mr. Karn, the economist here, will help me. If you increase the production, the supply is higher, the demand will start to go down, and the price of rice will probably, balance itself out. But instead of that, they said, no, let's make the rice more expensive. Even though we're paying people $22, $23, we'll make rice $15 instead of $9 and something. So automatically, you're taking half of someone's salary, or about 60% of their salary, just to buy rice, right? We ain't got soup money, you just rice. And you're saying that the fact that these guys came and said, look, this is not right. This is not the way to do it. That's wrong. And then they were beaten. They were put in jail. So they were threatened. They were almost killed. Mr. Carlor just narrated what happened to his sister. Do you think it was humane for the government to treat a citizen like that? A woman takes food to her brother. You take the food, you snack it, you start cursing her. When he was explaining the story, I was cringing because I thought he was going to say something horrible. Like they did something bad to her. Thankfully, they didn't. But that's not right. So the fact that they stood up against it and I said, oh, they need nothing to apologize. Look, you asked the question to Dr. Mali, and I'll answer that question quickly. Who's to blame? If you push me to say blame somebody, the Americo-Liberian elite, not Talbot, the Americo-Liberian elites around him are the ones that are responsible for everything that has happened to Liberia. When you dominate a country as much as they did, with the way that they did, they were vicious, right? Tottenham killed people. They killed people who wanted to protest or say anything against it. People were missing regularly, right? When you dominate the country, our wealth, most of the properties you see in Liberia today, owned by the American-Liberian elite, on the back of Liberian people's hard work. These guys in the interior used to sit there in hammock, and our people had to tow them from town to town. They would beat them, take their food, take their properties, right? And nothing happened. And you say that a group of guys decide like, nah, this is not the way we should live with our brothers. Let's change the narrative. And then you won't blame them, not the people who are oppressing the country. The people who decide to say oppression wrong, you say, let's blame them.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we should say the elite in government and don't say
Americo-Liberian, quote me, say Dr. Fidel Budi said the Americo-Liberian elite. Let's call a spade a spade. It was the there was not country boys then in the government at that time. It was Americo-Liberian elites. Right? Let's not be political about it.
Let me bring in Dr. George William. Dr. William, you are live. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. And thanks to everyone on the platform. I think it's a great conversation Liberia needs to have. We're happy to have a privilege to have Karn, one of our iconic actors from the 70s, participating and providing us insights that those of us who were babies in the 70s can now become appraised of what the realities were there and then. I want to speak firstly to Dr. Mali. I think some level of education is needed here. The mere existence of political parties does not represent multipartyism. Multipartyism is built on the active participation in the political space of political parties. Now, from the last elections, Liberia under Tubman, I think it was 1951 or 55, there was only William R. V.S. Tubman who stood those elections. His opponents were ran out, and Liberia up to 1977. I hear you mention independent. Independent isn't a party, but up to 1977. When the Moja and the POW stood up to contest the mayoral elections in Monrovia, that election was also abandoned because the True Party wasn't positioned to winning those elections. So it was abandoned. Since that time till now, we have not even had mayoral elections in the country. So multi-partyism.
We have major election under President Doe.
Yeah, that was post 1980.
Yeah.
So multi-partyism, Dr. Mallon needs to go back and educate himself on the nature and context of multi-partyism. The mere existence of political parties does not represent multi-partyism. But here, before I leave, I want Deacon to please speak to this issue. There is a controversy surrounding the whole issue, the incidents of 1980. Did we have a coup led by soldiers in our army, or was there an assassination? Because as Liberians coming out of the war, we need a uniform perspective, theory about what happened in 1980.
Yeah. Thank you.
The controversy to be addressed. Was there a coup by some oblivious soldiers in our executive national guard, or were there foreign hands involved in the assassination of our president? Please speak to it for us, please. And thank you again.
Thank you. Deacon, we have some questions for you here. So if you can unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead. So Deacon, we were in the thick of things. Did President Doe do Tugger, or was it a CIA plan, or was it Carlor coup? People around the president. These are some of the controversies. What do you know about the assassination?
We were about 447 in post-stockade the night of the coup. We had been there, getting our little daily beaten. They eat the pig feed and they give it to you, But the question, the way we were beaten daily, when people say, oh...
And for what? What were you in jail for?
We observed the inconsistency, the bankruptcy of the state, and we asked the government to resign. Plain and simple. We have that from January to March. We have gone to Banga, to Sino, to Bassa, to Riverside, to Maryland. But after traveling all of those, and then the government started to imprison our men, Sam Doki, you can name them. When they started to do that, we took Chia Chipo to Yipkepa. He filed a lawsuit against the Nima situation. While the guy was in jail, we came to town, and March 3rd, our guys in Monrovia were demonstrating. We arrived midnight on the 3rd, and some of the guys were beaten, were arrested. So those of us who show up that Monday morning were also arrested. And we said that, look, they think we continue like this. So we decided that we issue what we call the Declaration of Intent, that the government had no intent of cleaning the country up or showing signs of progressive work. And we invited the military, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and then Augusta King said, okay, look, I will take the information to the president. And we're very glad. Shed Tutman, the son-in-law of the president, was also there. They said they will inform the president the next morning. But by next morning, there was chaos all over the place. Chaos. Now, so what happened? So what is it that you guys wanted to say to the president? Because we wrote the the Declaration of Intent is next time I will look for it so that you see the intent. The other brothers say we had no documentation. My friend, no party can say we have better organized documentation of our situation than the Progressive People Party, the United People's Party, and we're documenting practically everything we did. And the reason is we said we wanted rule of law, and our position was if you did stupid stuff, they will carry you to court. They will carry you to court because you violated the law. And if you start to lay on the law, maybe then all the torturing we got, they will come down. Because for us, that was the only way. If you trace the confusion in our country, where was power? Was power in the confusion line? Was power shooting people, killing people? Come on. We say the only way out was to be able to straighten the rule of law. And even today, you should say that you want a court system. The court system got to straighten itself up. The Supreme Court, they see the right and the wrong, and they pit it, they change it. So what is it that we're looking for, really? We wanted the rule of law. That's what we wanted the most. We wanted to form our own party. You say what you were looking for? With the rule of law in place, that we form our own party. We said by 1983, we will be old enough, we'll be mature enough, and we'll go compete for state power anywhere. Because we're organizing every village, in every town. Why was that? Why we couldn't wait? Who will wait? You want to run for office, then you go, somebody leave from New York and go to Monrovia today, so you will run tomorrow? We say it's unacceptable. That's not the way you want to do. You want to build multi-party culture. You have to spend some time on the ground. And we show that it can be done. From 1975 to the time of all the Yokla, we demonstrated that it can be done. We proved it. We started training our own kids, sending them to school and telling them, go to law school. You cannot say, or you cannot compete in a multi-party climate, multi-party space, and use other partisan people and say that my man. He's not your man. He doing that so you eat something.
Mr. I know, and I wonder, because there are many things. What was this? And we have one more caller on the line I will bring on quickly. But what was this power versus Moja? Because even 79, there was controversy. There were some people who said, let us not do this because we are not prepared. People talk about the preparation and the groundworks. But power, according to the story, power was the one pushing for it. LPP or Moja, on the other hand, say, let's wait, let's educate the people. The situation is not conducive because we know how this government is going to respond. So let us not do it. Is there anything you can hold the progressive responsible for? Because the situation, and as we learned, Aberport was shuttling between the progressive office and the president's office, trying to say, how can we resolve this situation? But you went ahead anyway.
The eve of 1979, April 13, Aberport, yes, he was shuttling between the Progressive People Party and the True Party. Moja people were involved in organizing the student union at Cottington. So those of us who were in town, we had a different business. Our business was to make sure that the government, we show them up. Like, for example, you take this paper.
You are muted. Unmute yourself. Maybe you are muted by mistake. Unmute yourself, Josh. Please unmute your line, Deacon. Okay. While we try that, let me bring on the next caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Eric Collins calling from Minnesota.
Mr. Collins, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Liberians, we're good at shifting blame, but we refuse to take the blame. We continue to shift blame on Joseph Boakai government. But now when it comes to discussing the real issue for progressive to take the blame for the failures, they refuse to do that. Then why do you blame Joria government? Why do you blame or Joseph Boakai government? Joseph Boakai government came to power on rescue. We claim that they are not rescuing. So you blame them because they don't have vision. So they wanted to remove Joria, but they didn't come with a vision. It's the same way the progressive. They came to bring a multi-party system, but they created a whole drama that led to the country going into chaos, that led to 250,000 people dead. Then they shifting blame on Moja, Pa, and other people when you were in the forefront. You led the revolution. Then how can you be talking, say you owe no apology and you take no blame or no responsibility? Then why you want to shift blame on other government now for making mistakes and making errors?
Terry,
you cannot.
Terry, the progressive did not take power though, unlike Joseph Boakai or we are.
They didn't have to.
Okay.
What the creation led to the death of a president. A legitimate president was afterward Baka Mati was free from prison by Dole or regime. And there were a lot of progressives that were free from prison, and there were a lot of progressives that were being inclusive into the.
Are you saying they were justifiably in prison? Were they supposed to be in prison?
They were not supposed to be in prison, but the revolution led to the elimination of a sitting president. So, are you also saying that the killing of President Turbo was justifiable?
The progressive didn't cause it. What they are saying, the killing was not justifiable. The killing was not justifiable, and nobody is saying President Turbo should be killed. But what's wrong with campaigning against him to want power? You know, political parties always want power. So what's wrong with agitating that, hey, things are not good, just like people are doing under President Boakai, just as people did under President Weah and President Johnson? What's wrong?
Nothing wrong with that, but you must also take the fall and take the blame and responsibility for partaking, like the people who supported the Joseph Boakai government, which I happen to be one of those. If they are going wrong, I will take responsibility for supporting a government that came to power to hurt our people. That's my point. If they were the how you call it, the progressive now, okay, I know you call them the Joe government, there was a name given to them. So when they came to power and they were causing all the chaos in the country, was the progressive position.
They went to jail. They went to Bella Yala, some of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr.
Malo, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to elevate our conversation, especially with our last caller. I still want to maintain my position that from 1847 to January 3rd, 1944, there were multi-partyism.
Okay.
And it ended 1944. That I will agree. It ended 1944. All right? Multi-partyism ended that moment. Up to the time the coup came, well, the guys came in. So that's the correction I wanted to make for our listener. And lastly, the issue of the progressive action and that of the military coup. I strongly want to believe that these were symptoms of the problem. And I agree with Dr. Bure. I think the main problem comes from, I hate to use the word, but I have to use it. We are on a platform. I think the main problem comes from the Congo hegemony. Yes. And so, yes, from the Congo hegemony.
They tribe business.
Yeah. No, it's not tribe business. This is an intellectual issue. Okay. Yes. That is the root. If we really want to focus on why Liberia is going the way it's going, until we dismantle the cradle, how it all started, and do away and disabuse our mind on so many former slave identity and so many other things, we heading nowhere. Because you notice that even when the indigenous have not taken seat to make use of the multi-party system, see what's going on. You see, it's even regrettable that probably we don't even need a multi-party system right now, because it's more exploitative, more deceptive. I mean, it's like it's taking the masses nowhere. So I think the progressive action and that of the action of the coup were just symptoms of the problem. And so I agree with Dr. Buddha. Probably another time we can go into details on those things.
Thank you, Tom.
Let me just say something quickly. Let me just say, I think the point that Dr. Mali just made can be linked to what Mr. Karn said, right? Because at the end of the day, these institutions were built by the elites, right? The American-Liberian elites built the systems in the way that they are. They made sure that the courts were ineffective, that the president could just call a judge and say, Dr. Mali guilty, let him go to jail, and it happens, right? They made sure that the court was not independent. They made sure that the legislature also bowed down to the president. They created this executive presidency that now makes Liberia unable to move forward because the presidency controls everything.
And Dr. Budi, that's the point really I want us to even focus on now. Even if the progressive were 100% responsible, or as you say, Dr. Mali said, the Congo hegemony, or as you said, the American-Liberian, it's been 40 years.
No, but I think that Karn should jump in on this one first because his point is clear. The system.
So we have a situation where, let's say, the Constitution that was drafted by Mr. Dr. Amos C. Sawyer and his colleague, right, that pardoned the coup makers, right? Because I would say President Dr. Sawyer had gone to his head, so they have to do something to say, okay, let's make sure these guys, we can get them out of power. We have other things in that Constitution, but even to this day, these things have not been changed. President Salif had the opportunity. What she changed in that Constitution was, hey, probably she wanted to get at Johnny Lewis was put a cap on the age limit on the justices, right? And then we have also the amendment was the election for representative senators now 50.1, 50 plus 1. So there were changes made to the Constitution, but those very important things have been left untouched up to this day. So why are we going back blaming people 40 years ago? Tom, what's your view?
That was the point I raised at the beginning of this whole debate, right? That why are we telling people to apologize? And one of the callers that called and said people criticize George Weah and Joseph Walker because they are presidents that are elected to move the country forward. So if they don't do it, people are going to raise issues with them. You can't compare the president to someone who was advocating to be included in governance. And you know, when Dr. Body was speaking, I just got reminded of the advocacy that, or the issue that Dr. Opele has been raising. If you've been listening to some of the things that she's been talking, that we shouldn't even call the people American-Liberians because they were not Americans. You know, when you have a dual citizenship, they call you American Nigerian or they call you American Canadian. Because she says if they were citizens of America, they shouldn't have been taken away from America. So for the fact they were taken away from America and sent back to Africa, they were not citizens. But aside the issue, if you look at books that have been written on how countries can grow, you look at Asimoglu and Robinson, they talk about institutions. And this is the point I was raising. Institutions reinforce themselves. And so from the beginning of the establishment of that country, those institutions that were established, self-serving institutions that were established in Monrovia, and they've now been dismantled over years. That's the reason why our progress is this slow. And this is the point. Why do we go back to blame people or to hold them to ransom because they demonstrated against rice? Let's say the 1979 rice riot took place. And then after that, you have progressive governance reforms to be able to move the country forward. But we've not done it. The Constitution you said Dr. Sawyer then wrote, why wouldn't they have written it the way they wrote it? Because Doe was a military leader. When he asked them to put this clause in the Constitution, they put it there. Remove this, they remove it. 20 years after the Civil War, when Kenya and other countries have written a new and progressive constitution, we don't do it. When we talk about constitutional reform, we go and change one comma to period. We change period to exclamation to semicolon. Let's write a new progressive constitution and go to a referendum and say, do we want a new constitution that provides all of these guarantees? And when you listen to all the stakeholders, they talk about it, people in the judiciary, the way the constitution is written, it constrains them. They don't like it. On the government side, we don't like it. For instance, we need to have a constitution that can elevate decentralization and put it in the constitution that nobody can change it. We don't have it. Madam Seli came and set up a whole committee. UNDP and others wasted money on it only to identify 25 clauses. And with George Weah, he picked 2 or 3. So we've not been progressive. Okay, we went through 1979. We went through Civil War. Sierra Leone did a thing. Rwanda went through a very deadly crisis. They killed too many people. But where are they today? And where are we? So these people are already old. They were in jail. They were in Liberia. They beat them. They did a lot of things for them. Let's let them rest. Our problem is ourselves because we are not changing the institutions that were established to serve Monrovia so that it can serve our people. And this is where our challenge lies. And government after government, Manansali did some reform, accountability institutions, but the core governance issues. You listen to her when she was launching the deconcentration platform. She said the days of a domineering presidency is over. Because all through that time, the presidency we have had in Liberia is domineering. And we've not really let go of that. So let us put in rest.
Yeah.
Mr. John,
hold on. This is Dr. Sawyer's book, No Land, No Vote. The story of the 1979 Sawyer campaign and mayor of Monrovia and the fight for voting rights in Liberia. You see the illustration there, the president going vote with their land deed.
Yeah. Women started to vote all the way from 1847 when they allowed women to vote, I think 1951. And then before you vote, you had to have a property. And the government will have to value your property to see whether it reached the value that you can vote. So how can we call that democracy? 1927, the most fraudulent election in the Guinness Book of Record, where the voters were more than the population of the country. And then when the private say we have multi-party democracy on the book.
Yeah, but yeah, Thomas. But let me just add a piece to what Dr. Buri said. I think here is the issue. Those succeeded to move the political actors from the face of the earth in Liberia, but he left the structure in place. I think that's where the mistake is coming from, and people are improving on this structure negatively now since that time up to today. That's what Tomo was Tomo was alluding to. The structure has to be dismantled.
So Deacon, what is the problem? Because, things are getting worse, and we keep looking back. I think the last time we had a show here talking about our better day, are they behind us? Because we keep going back. I don't know of any country that started booming. Everything was just great. United States, see what they did to the natives here, right? Even I ask people, so the problem here is, had those succeeded in moving the country forward and being revolutionary, we wouldn't even be talking about 79 or 1980. After the war, had Taylor, who became president, had he moved the country forward and started doing things progressively, turn the country at least, maybe finish the Ganto Highway so I can go to Dudwican and come back the same day. Maybe we wouldn't even be talking about 89, 85 or the war. Had President Salih, after 12 years after the war, transformed the entire country, maybe we wouldn't even remember that war ever happened. Had President Weah, after they said, well, the elite let us down for the 6th year, had he done something? So always, Deacon, I want you to respond to, is it what happened afterwards? Is this why we're talking this? because other people may coup, but because of what they did, right? Look at Burkina Faso. After the coup guy, we all condemn, but see what he's doing.
Let me say, and this is my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I've been holding it from the time 1980. I believe I cannot point to a documentary evidence to make this point, but look, when people fought in the bushes all over the country, and the country changed, and the people who fought did not take over the country, that country would not make progress. I believe that what is happening to us, we did not take power.
The progressive.
Yeah, we didn't take power. Look,
but the progressive has some power, and what did they do with it? That's the question.
Just a minute.
Okay.
They say, for example, my friend Matthew was appointed foreign minister. You know, the group of people in the States, particularly from Brooklyn, say Matthew made a query that people are not having meetings. They're not meeting with, they're not having budget conversation and that. And they made a report to Doe. Doe and Matthew clashed on the cabinet floor. And when the noise in the way settled down, Matthew took his paper, went to foreign ministry. By the time he got to foreign ministry, Doe ordered his dismissal. They queer organized the chiefs throughout the country. They were talking about returning to the barrel, reclosing at the Constitution closely. The day they sat down, that Sunday, those said they want to overthrow a government. He arrested Westside, he arrested Henry Zuo, he arrested Robert Sumo, and on and on. I'm saying to say, and that last action, arresting Westside, arresting, because are the guys that formed the PRC, Henry Zuo from Nima, Robert Sumo from Lofa, Nelson To from Grand Gide, they organized the government. Now, somebody can kind of say, oh, they saw some Soya people. So lies. The guys that I'm naming, I work with them. I work with them to settle, look at the country. One day, we were traveling from Nairobi, and Westside said, no, Henry Zuo said, but so why we kill the people for? Why did we kill the people? And Henry Zuo, not Henry Zuo, Nelson To said, I told you, you're putting all kind of people there in the new government, it will give you trouble. You didn't pay attention to me. And you see it now. Those got so upset, they strap this kid, Nelson To. So the reason why the country has not made progress to me, but when we put a constitution commission together, December 25th, 1980, in no time, Mr. Doe started moving the people. January, March, January, February, Doe I moved the guys off the commission. He put his own people there. So the constitution that the Sawyer people drafted, they extracted a lot of the progressive provision. I'm not saying somebody did bad, but what they did. Now you say it was bad. Well, to me, it didn't look right. Here it is. Here it is. At that time, SK said, these guys, and so the American invited 'Westside' to America, to West Point. And Wasan told me to go and participate in the plan making for him to go to West Point. The first thing I asked the guy, I think he is CI boy. He said he had been in the army 28 years. You know. I said, damn, that's a lot. He said, I bet I would not ask your age. I said, but why would you want to ask my age? He said, I bet you're not 28 years. I said, no doubt. But the point that I ended with that conversation was, I said, so why are you carrying this guy to West Point and you want to take him alone by himself? And I said to the guy, we're not going to accept your invitation. We will not accept this invitation. So I looked at the called Doe, and they told Doe, this communist, this guy who you sent here, look like you're a communist. And because I think he's a communist, it looked like we put some, and then Doe called Wasan. You sent some frisky boy to the place. He called Matthew, your man then come from your pop people, you let trouble. And Doe was pissed. Then I said to them, this meeting is over. The meeting is over. We walked all of that meeting. By the time we get to Capitol building, Matthew was there. Then they asked me, what happened? I said, the people wanted Wasan to go to America by himself. Nobody should go with him. And I told them that he's not going to go anywhere. And as you say, may his soul rest in peace. Wasan turned to me and turned to Matthew, I am not going to America. I will not travel by myself. In fact, the meeting closed because we were having the second meeting in Wasan's office, the vice president office. And Wasan said he will not go. I'm saying to say that you got to have boom, you got to have the guts, the nerve to make revolution. When you get flunky there, fooling around the place, how you make progress? How will you make progress? People not willing to look at a sentence and say they want you to look correct. They want you to not correct. You have to.
Dick, I want us to end on this one. Is there anything, if you look back, that you regret or that the progressive could have done differently? Well, did you make any mistake?
Well, yeah, we made some mistake, but the mistake we made, let me say, for example, the coup took place April 12th. The guy who they made Minister of Finance, Perry Zulu, the guy who money, Perry Zulu gave it to them. What is it that revolutionary government is supposed to protect? What is the general principle? What the principle? Would that drive you, that hold you up? People went to the government to me, they ain't get boom. You gotta have boom, man.
Thank you.
You can't 30 people and the mistakes the 30 people made and you kill them, you are committing the same mistakes. It one of those things that drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. And I used to tell it to them that if you continue like this, then Faravani died. Somebody threw a car in Faravani way. Then Wasan, they said he went over to the place. We met a Libyan guy, and he said he will give us 80 million so we go do school in agriculture. That what a door was going to Tripoli because Gaddafi said he should come to sign the paper. By the time Doe will get out to the mansion on the road, Ricky moves, I think some moves from the American place was at Robertsfield. Doe trip was canceled. you know, I'm safe. I mean, every day I look through this every day because I was part of making a revolution. And they think that make a revolution, you gotta have resources. But when you get a resource, then your hand gotta stay away. Your nasty hand must stay away from the people fund. You cannot say you want to do revolution and you play with the public money. You know it's not right. And all of us know that.
Thank you. We are on the radio and the time is fast spent, so we'll be concluding. So let me have 30 seconds, starting with Dr. Mali, Tom, and then Dr. Booty, and then Deacon, and we close.
Yeah, my question to Mr. Carlos is this.
We're closing.
Yes, it's a closing. Maybe you will answer another time. If the progressive came with a very good intentions and believe in the democratic tenets of the United States from where they originated from, especially the chairman, why they decided to validate a military government at the time?
What does that mean, validate?
Oh, they work in the government. Bako Mafia served twice.
Oh, okay. Oh, to work.
The
way I want to be superintendent of Sino. So when they appoint me, I shouldn't go.
Yeah, so that's validation because this is, I believe, this is a democratic group.
Thank you. But that's a good question.
Yeah, talking about rule of
law.
law.
That kill people. Why are you guiding their government?
Yeah, here you are. You have validated a military government. Can you imagine that?
After committing treason against the state. Deacon, 30 seconds.
Why did I join the military government?
Yeah.
First, if I didn't go to organize or reorganize the PRC in a structured way, somebody else would take the job. We came out of prison April 12th. They formed the government April 12, April 13. People wanted to go to the government already. And we thought, well, let me say, I thought I did not work until June because my wife and myself were sitting down whether to work in the government or not. And I told her, no, it's not a good idea. And she said, yeah, good, that's true. But I started thinking that if we say we're turning around, when I first met Podia told me, Karn, that you say you want working in our government, so you were not going to take your ass from jail. Then you are going to manage. That's the question that Podia asked me. Well, and that question to me, it makes sense to him, but it makes sense to me too. But I didn't believe them. But you have to put in place the government people that are ready to make revolution. If one person ready and 1,000 people not ready, they ain't look good. That's why I resigned 1981. 1981. I was under the government because I didn't see it working.
Thank you. We want to welcome Dr. Abdullah Dukle for his closing comment. and Dr. Du has been away for some time. Welcome back. And I know the schedule.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. How's everybody?
I give my time to Dr. Dukle.
Dr. Dukle, should the progressive apologize? I know the progressive.
I apologize for what? For trying to wake people up, for trying to tell the country what it's supposed to be, for telling the government what democracy is supposed to be. And then somebody get up in the middle of the night and go kill the president. So what do they have to apologize for? They didn't make the coup. That's not even a subject to discuss. I don't think so. If you're serious. Yeah.
But for 40 years now, the country, some people in the country have been holding the progressive responsible.
Oh, yeah, because the progressive were making moves, because the progressive were doing their own thing. And then you had two groups of progressive. Moja and Bacchus were now on the same line. They collaborated, but they were not really doing the same thing. The soldiers did their own thing. So people who have that mentality, they think, oh yeah, because we talk about these new ideas, and because of those new ideas, we created a system, an atmosphere of what do you call it? laissez-aller, and therefore the soldiers were, pick on that. But I don't think that you have to prove that a progressive has something to do with the coup. But we don't do research. Nobody has written a book about the coup. There's 17 men who did a coup. Not a single one wrote a single book or told Liberians, this is how happened. This is what happened. This is the person who sponsored the coup. Nobody said it. So this is just, people getting nostalgic about the 70s, and then they're making projections and say, okay, yeah, if we had continued in the 70s, we would not have had the war. If we didn't have the coup, we would not have the war. And if we didn't have this progressive, we would never have the coup. But the two are not linked. There have been many, many coups in Africa at the time. The whole continent was under the coup, military coup. So I don't see the rationale really. I mean, it's all ignorance, and the fact that we don't tell ourselves what happened in the country. How many people have read any book about governance in Liberia? I mean, from people who really govern. I mean, I mistakenly sent you that copy of Osoya book because I'm doing a review. But how many people wrote anything about the coup? Barcos Matthew died. He never said a word. Tipote is old. He's probably too old now to write anything, but he never wrote anything about the coup or his work. So I think we make, we're trying to stretch it. People get nostalgic about the past and they say, oh, if we didn't have this, maybe this would not have happened. No, I don't think a progressive had anything to do with the coup.
Thank you. Dr. Male is smiling. You enjoying Dr. Duke? Dr. Budi, your closing comments.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Dr. Mali, Mr. Karn, Mr. Carlor, and obviously Dr. Dupley as well. I like I said from the start, I do not believe that the progressives have anything to apologize for. There were a lot of different forces, and I'm glad that Dr. Dupley talked about it. They were all agitating for different reasons. The atmosphere was just ripe, and I'm glad that he talked about the fact that in Ghana, we already had a coup at the time. In other places on the continent, there were coups going on as well. So, look, I believe the Liberian people owe the progressives an apology because they actually went through the trenches. They were arrested multiple times. They were beaten. Again, I asked the question, but Mr. Carlor, I didn't answer it. Whether what I heard is that President Toba was about to kill them. And the coup was the reason why they didn't get killed. And if all of those things happen to them, then I don't see how they should be apologizing. Having said that, individuals have come after who had the opportunity to change the trajectory of our country. And they have to be held responsible and not linked to the progressives, right? President Doe had the opportunity, he chose not to. President Taylor had the opportunity, he didn't do much. President Sirleaf had an opportunity, and so on and so forth. And right now we're seeing with President Boyka, not much is being done. So my thing would say, Ms. Carla, thank you for accepting all the beating that you accepted on behalf of our country. And I don't expect any apology from you, even though I wasn't born at the time when you guys were being beaten. But I think us as Liberians, I wouldn't be sitting here today as an indigenous Liberian having the opportunities I've had if you guys didn't do the things that you did. So thank you very much.
Our resident economy, I gave your time back.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen Dr. Duke for a long time, so I just decided.
Yeah, we miss her. We never met in Monrovia. Is that funny?
Yeah.
But Dr. Duke was rubbing shoulder with the elite.
No, I wasn't anywhere but no elite. I was no part of no elite or plight or anything. I was doing my own thing. Okay. I never met any. I wasn't part of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I think Dr. Duke emphasized on that point that some of these things are not linked. But again, with the generation that came after the Civil War, 14, 15 years, no reading. And after the Civil War, many people just lost track of the history and nobody is going back to read. So people just follow what comes up on social media. You have people say, oh, the progressives are responsible and all of that. But you can raise a very serious issue. Are the progressives responsible for the kind of incompetence that we continue to see in government? You see someone, clearly they don't have the capacity to serve in a specific role, and you take that person and put them there. And they just kill the institution. And maybe let's even take some of these progressive one by one. Much of the governance reform that took place under Madam Salif, it was not really Madam Salif who said that was pushing it. It was Dr. Sawyer who was pushing it from the governance commission. Citizen participation. Yes. Citizen participation, public sector reform, and everything. It was Dr. Sawyer pushing all of those. Since Dr. Sawyer left or governance commission, what do you see coming? Nothing. Public sector reform is dead. Governance reform is dead. Even the laws that he managed to push through the legislature for them to implement it, everything is on the book. Look at the situation we are in. The whole aid industry is in crisis now. This is the time for us to have a conversation with our citizens, the people of Liberia, on how we can restructure the state and build a firm foundation for inclusive growth and development moving forward. But we're tinkering at the margin. Or we're having conference with the donors. We have in April, we're having conference with them. We're talking to everyone but our citizens. When are we going to go to Pastor and talk to the people? When are we going to go to Lofi to talk to the people? But we are not doing it. And we're managing, tinker around the margins until the crisis can subside a little bit, and then we move on again. 2050, 2060 will still be where we are. Maybe with the blessing of some regional things that happen in Mission 300, will increase access to electricity. But all of those things, if they build on a foundation, on an institutional foundation that is not solid, is not inclusive enough, only certain people will get out of poverty, the vast majority will be there. So I think we've moved too long to continue to, hold people, demonstrators, why we can't hold the Jews, any people responsible, that if they are given chance to maybe we will have transformed the country.
Thank you. Deacon, I want you to conclude, and please add to your conclusion I don't know if I can call it infighting between Moja and Pa. Maybe that too contributed. The two couldn't agree on how to move forward, and up to now you see vestiges of that fight. Your conclusion.
When I was told, Moja was organized in 1971. I became a member. PAL became organized in Liberia in 1975. I was one of the founding persons. And the reason I became a founding person, because I wanted to form a political party. That when my grandfather told me that if we don't come together ourselves, then the country will not settle down. So when he used to say, when children know book, then they will form their own party. So all through 1960, when I started going to school, Grandpa said, we want to grow up and form our party. Grandpa said we should go to school and be a lawyer. Because the Congo people, they can't be lawyer and help us. They're not going to help us. So you see, I'm saying to say this business of Moja and this. Moja people, they started saying that, some of them, they have few guys who have advanced degree and things. And they, they develop an attitude. The PAL people, they develop an attitude. And I tell you, we started recruiting people from the swamp, from West Point, from Slipway, days from that. That's what we thought that we were going to contrast what PAL was doing at the university. Moja was doing at the university. So the conflict that was, for me, it was like, some people say they're noble, the other people, they ain't noble. Okay, so we compete. Moja developed a style. They build their organization, to me, on the university campus, around the university students. We build our organization upside. And we decided that we were going to take it with the True Party. And we, at that moment, it's not that we were opposed to Moja people, but they were not happy about our action.
Mm-hmm. The styles were different.
Yeah, the style between PAL And Moja was different. The second thing, maybe I should say, nobody can say that the day of April 14th, for example, Moja children were organizing at Cuttington. They were forming the National Student Union while we were demonstrating in the street. When they came, then the government arrested them. And I think the government helped them. The government helped them, they threw them in prison. And so all of us went to prison. And But if the government understood what happened, Matthew and I went to meet President Talbot, two of us. April 1st, 1979, we went to meet with President Talbot. And he said, you boy, let me ask you, who will make profit? They writing you, fighting you, making noise. Who will make profit? Who will they benefit? And I play fast more. I say, Mr. President, why are you asking us that question? You will benefit. You the rights producer. You the number one rights producer. The other man who will make profit, Mr. President, are your brother, Daniel Talbot. And then Matthew came and Matthew jumped between us. But we were trying to define ourselves. We were trying to know the country that we could have competed. And I tell you, for us, we said that by 1993, we'll be good. They were 79. We were not doing badly. We were trying everything to master our own program. We have a program, but it ain't mean nothing. What was said? We said we want a solid constitution. We saw the thing ain't no use. Constitution was not good. And so one of the first things I did with PRC was to put together the Constitutional Commission. Dr. Sawyer began here, DK1 Celia Onimba became number 2, and on and on. We were looking for people who had some brains, who had some knowledge. Doe was certified with Amos. We were certified with DK1 Celia. You have to have soldiers who are ready to fight this war. You cannot say you want to form a government, a progressive government, and you put all kinds of yoklo in it. It's not fair to our country. Find good people. Maybe the man closing, the man please come on. Mr. Boakai, when Mr. Boakai, he was a man in Lofa, in Vangima. On the Kuto place, the Lofa boys came running to me. They said, how come Lofa men not in the cabinet? So I ran to Wasan. Why you didn't put people from Lofa in the government? Wasan said, what do you mean? You check the government? Oh, I said, yeah, the Lofa people say, no, Lofa men in the government. Then I said, but I can tell you, the guy said there's opening in the government. He said, what is that? I said, the managing director of LPMC. Then Wasan asked me, they say they get somebody? I said, yes. They say, he our man? I said, yes. They say you get paper. You know, when you educated, how they call you, the PR. They say he get paper. I said, yes. Then he turned to me again. He said, Karn, you know him? I said, yeah, I know him from the YMCA. He said, but that our man? I said, yes. He said, you get a job. Don't bring your paper. How Boakai was brought into the government in 1980 because we declared that he was competent. And so I just didn't understand why. Maybe he forgot. And I can't blame him. But that was the question that was asked me. Every person who came to Capitol building to look for a job was saying, you are our man. If you're not revolutionary linked, you will not get that recruitment sheet.
This time, before you conclude, you said they were yoklo in government. They calling government yoklo inside. You don't have to answer.
No, I say, where are the people that in the government they get paper?
Yeah,
They get paper, but not qualified paper.
I hope that match I will tell you one pick on. The man get paper.
Yeah.
Get paper.
Everybody get paper, you boy.
Is it true that the PRC, they went to one office and then there was this, they call it native, he didn't have paper, so the boss who were considered Congo or
something.
They have 2-3 degrees. So he said, but how you wicked so? How you will be here? You get 2-3 degrees, and the man will get nothing, and you can get him one.
Yeah, they all the paper. Yeah.
So you can get 2 paper, and other man get nothing, and you stay there. What kind of wickedness is that? He said, what degree you get? Yeah, I get master, 2 master, 1 bachelor. And he said, and they country man sitting there, you get nothing, and you can get anything.
The man get nothing.
But thank you all for today. At this time, we want to also thank our viewers for watching. We are live on Kia Radio, so join us Saturday. We're going to be live on Kia Radio again at 10 a.m. Eastern or 2 p.m. Liberia time. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, whether you get paper or you don't get paper, we are all Liberians. Let us do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good day, good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. USA, all we want. Liberia, USA, all we want. Liberia, Liberia.